7 great psychological thrillers that deserve your reconsideration. A genre that often gets left behind unless it's been critically acclaimed has more than just a few hidden gems that make it worth watching. While these films might not be for the faint-hearted, they're still films that will someday go down in history. In this video, we will explore 7 psychological thrillers that got swept under the rug of time or just didn't get the recognition they deserved. But before we begin, please consider subscribing to us. It may be a small click from you, but it goes a long way for us. Let's begin, shall we? Number 1. Harry, He's Here to Help, 2000. Michelle and Claire are a middle-class couple burdened with 3 daughters, Jean, Sarah, and Iris. This family is on a little vacation to see Michelle's parents, but the lack of proper air conditioning in the car has the girls feeling sick, which results in a pit stop. Here, Michelle runs into Harry, a man who claims to know Michelle from his high school days, and as acquaintances do, Harry, his girlfriend Plum, head back to Michelle's for a drink. All goes well when Harry reminds Michelle of a poem he had written back in school, making sure Michelle knew that Harry was a fan of his work and thoroughly disappointed that Michelle had stopped writing. After that, Harry does everything he can to help Michelle get back into his writing. He takes some very drastic measures to eliminate all distractions that might come in Michelle's way, because, Harry, he's here to help. While this movie as a whole is a fantastic masterpiece that dives into the psyche of an obsessive friend, it has certain scenes that can be viewed as gems alone, and when strung together are even better. From acting to script, to direction, this film doesn't miss once. Psychological thrillers might not be for everyone, and at points, it isn't the easiest watch, but it's one of those movies that deserve a chance, especially for the story. It's a slow burn with a simple plot and extremely easy to follow. Not everyone needs a friend like Harry, and after watching this film, one will think twice when they run into a friend from high school. Number 2. Ripleys Game, 2002. After a failed partnership with British gangster Reeves, Tom Ripley is now a rich man, living in a luxurious villa with a beautiful wife. However, not everything is perfect when Reeves surfaces, much to Ripley's dismay, and asks him to eliminate a rival gangster. For this job, Ripley recommends his neighbor, Jonathan Trevani, with whom he once had a brief spat at a party. Trevani, however, is far from an assassin. He is a law-abiding citizen, suffering from leukemia, but when Reeves offers him a large sum of money, he agrees to the task, thinking about the family he will be leaving behind after his death. After the first job, Reeves offers another, along with a threat, and that's when Ripley finally intervenes. Despite ignoring Ripley's warning, Reeves fails to keep a low profile, getting himself killed. However, the story doesn't end there now that there are mobsters after Ripley and Trevani. This film was the unofficial directorial debut of John Malkovich after the production got delayed because of financial reasons and the current director had to leave due to prior commitments. Tom Ripley is one of the greatest characters of all time. He is completely and utterly evil and unhinged, and John Malkovich does a perfect job playing him, which is the cherry on the top. The plot is exciting, with constant action and something interesting happening in every scene. It keeps the audience craving for more as the minutes go by. While some scenes are brutal with vivid descriptions, it is worth a watch as the whole plot unfolds and comes together, making it the perfect crime movie. Number 3. Spider, 2002. Dennis Clegg, or Spider, is a schizophrenic man who had just been released from the mental asylum and sent to a halfway house that caters to mentally disturbed people. Here, he is given a room and put under the care of Mrs. Wilkinson, a relentless lady. He isn't looked after much here, which leads to his mind wandering to darker places, and one day, he puts together the pieces of a childhood memory, one that changed everything. The memory is of his mother being brutally murdered by his father, Bill Clegg, along with the support of a prostitute, Yvonne, with who Bill seems to be involved. Things begin to unfold when Spider starts visualizing Mrs. Wilkinson as Yvonne, and he steals her keys to access different rooms in the halfway house. Spider begins to relive childhood memories, and before he knows it, he's in Mrs. Wilkinson's room, ready to kill her. David Cronenberg is a unique director, and his unique style and direction come through in this film. Along with great direction and screenplay, this film's backbone is its cast, especially Ralph Fiennes, who plays the role of Spider, Dennis Clegg. Not every actor can pull off the role of a troubled man, and Fiennes did an exceptional job. The story is twisted and incredibly gripping. It will keep you wondering about what goes on in the spider's mind from start to finish, keeping one hooked to the screen. It's an uncomfortable watch at some points, as are more psychological thrillers, but isn't that what makes us want to watch it more?
What have you done?
Number 4. My Son, What Have You Done? 2009. Detective Havenhost and his partner Detective Vargas arrive at a crime scene when they notice Brad McCullum leave the scene of the murder with a cup of coffee, and after the detectives have a conversation with the main witnesses, the neighbors, they realize that the murderer had just walked by them, Brad McCullum. They soon find out that Brad was a disturbed man and had acted differently after returning from his trip to Peru, and that's when Brad's fiancée Ingrid arrives at the scene. She informs the detectives that all of Brad's friends had died in a kayaking accident, which Brad had abstained from last minute. The next person to arrive on the scene is the theater director, Lee Myers, who talks to the detective about the murder weapon and Brad's disruptive behavior. All this while, Brad is in the house opposite the crime scene, holding people hostage, and his first demand is a pizza, while Ingrid and Lee try to convince him to let go of the hostages. But does Brad agree? Or does it only lead to him being more unhinged as time progresses? It is a story about a man's descent into madness. While the film takes place in real time, a lot of the story and plot points are hidden in the flashbacks. Only through those flashbacks can one understand what truly happened to Brad and what led to him murdering his mother. Compared to some gory psychological thrillers, this one was an easier watch, with some stellar acting and direction to go with it. The movie is about relationships, loss, love, and all in all, tragedy. Number 5. The Pledge, 2001. Jerry Black, a police detective who is now retired, decides to make a promise to Ginny's mother, who had just lost her child. Instead of spending his retirement in Mexico on a fishing trip, Jerry pledges to find the killer, convinced that the person who was convicted for the crime wasn't guilty of it. After snooping around a little, and talking to people who knew the victim, Jerry concludes that the man who killed Ginny was still alive, and probably on his next hunt. Jerry is determined to find the killer as he buys a gas station close to a place where similar cases had taken place. He eventually befriends a waitress, Lori, forming a romantic relationship with her, and a fatherly one with her daughter, Chrissy. One night, Chrissy mentions a man to Jerry who matched the description of the killer, and he knows this was his moment to find the man. Jerry uses Chrissy as bait, but does he find the killer? Or does he lose everything that he had? This passion project of Sean Penn and Jack Nicholson was turned down by every major studio in Hollywood until Elie Sameha signed them on for a reduced fee, giving us this brilliant film to view. If you refuse to watch the story for the plot, you must at least give it a shot for the cast. Jack Nicholson truly embodies this role, delivering every dialogue perfectly, much like his other films. As for The Pledge, admittedly, it isn't an easy watch. Some scenes might make your stomach churn, but it is a slow and powerful film. Number 6. The Ones Below, 2015. Kate and Justin are a couple expecting a baby, living a fairly normal life until their new downstairs neighbors move in. John and Teresa are also expecting a baby, and it took them 7 years to get pregnant, as opposed to Kate and Justin, who never wanted a baby, and when they decided to have one, luck was in their favor. One night, as the four of them have dinner together, getting acquainted, Teresa's behavior changes and she leaves the house in a rush, accidentally tripping over the cat, which results in her falling and losing the baby. Completely devastated, John and Teresa decide to take a little break and come back when their spirits are lifted. Teresa even offers to babysit Kate's baby, Billy. What seems like neighbors helping each other takes a dark turn when Kate finds out the reality, knowing that John and Teresa didn't have the best intentions, which leads to Justin and Kate moving out. Things only get worse when Justin gets called into work and receives a vague email from Kate, and all it says is, "Sorry." From the get-go, the film engages its audience like none other. With a plot twist somewhere in the beginning, we know that the film only gets better from there, and it's the kind that you cannot pause or even watch in 2 sittings. It has to be watched in one go. The curiosity has to be fed. The story is dark and twisted, and if one wasn't aware of the genre it belonged to, the beginning of the film would have you fooled. One must always be wary of new neighbors, but The Ones Below takes this to a whole other level.
You don't deserve that thing inside you.
Number 7. In the Cut, 2003. Franny Avery is a high school teacher and writer who meets Detective Giovanni Malloy when he questions her about a gruesome murder where the body was found in Franny's garden. Despite the nature of the meeting, they form a rather flirty relationship and meet at a bar later. This is the same bar where Franny had seen a local woman performing oral sex on a man in the bathroom, where she noticed a tattoo on his arm, and she later realizes that Malloy has a similar tattoo, which leads her to suspect that he might be the killer. As events unfold, after a drunken night, Franny lets Malloy and his partner, Rodriguez, that Malloy should stay away from her, but despite that, he doesn't. So, she cuffs Malloy to a pipe and drives away with Rodriguez, letting him know about how Malloy might be the killer, mentioning the tattoo. He drives her to the bridge, and that's when he shows the tattoo, the same one as Malloy's, and she knows she's in trouble. Despite this film not being a box office hit and passing off as an erotic thriller, it does have a few redeeming qualities that make it worth watching. It isn't a traditional mystery film. If you go in with certain expectations, there is a good chance that you will be disappointed by the end of it. The sexual aspect of this film might be a shock to most people who are watching it, but it works for the film. It adds to the thrill of it. While the plot might be cliché, one can watch it for the entertainment aspect of it. There is seldom a dull moment, and Mark Ruffalo and Meg Ryan are always a sight for sore eyes. That was all in this video. Do hang around for more awesome movie suggestions. Take care, and have a good one.